Masks. Sam was trying to find a good costume for the high school Halloween party the next night, but every store she went to all had the same boring costumes. She was just about to give up for the day when she found a small costume store near the town square and decided to at least see what they had. When she walked in, it was more crowded than she expected, with other people trying to find last-minute costumes. Sam couldn't help but let out a sigh when she saw that most of the costumes looked the exact same as all the other stores, except for one thing. Hanging in the middle of a wall full of masks was the scariest Halloween mask Sam had ever seen. It had pale, wrinkly skin that covered its twisted, frowning face. Bleeding black eyes stared back at Sam from the mask, and strands of long, black, tangled hair hung over its brow. She picked the mask up and looked it over. The first thing Sam noticed was just how real the mask seemed. It felt so much like actual skin. She didn't see a price tag on it, though, and when she took it to the register, they didn't know how much it was either. "Just take it," the store manager said. "Sometimes people leave stuff in here by accident, and this mask isn't in our inventory anyway." When Sam got home, she hung the mask on the bathroom door downstairs in a plastic bag. Then she went into the computer room to get some homework done. It was starting to get late, and eventually Sam was the only one awake in the whole house. She let out a yawn and decided she had better go get ready for bed. But before she got out of her chair, she heard what sounded like a plastic bag hitting the floor by the bathroom. When she got up to see what it was, she saw the bag with her mask in it, lying on the floor. "That's weird," she thought, and she hung the bag back on the doorknob. Sam went into the bathroom to brush her teeth, but while she did that, she heard the bag drop to the floor again. This time she tied the bag in a knot around the doorknob to make sure it wouldn't fall. "That should do it," she said to herself while she walked into the kitchen to get a glass of water. But when she walked past the bathroom, she saw that the bag was on the floor again, only this time the mask was gone. Sam stared at the floor in disbelief. "What is going on?" she wondered. "Is somebody still awake?" She bent down to pick up the bag, but before she could grab it, the lights in the living room turned off. Sam walked down the hallway towards the living room slowly. Then she stopped. In a dark corner of the living room, she saw the black outline of something crouching down, as if it were waiting and watching her. Sam was so afraid she could hardly move. Her hands were shaking at her sides as she decided to back away slowly. The shape just stayed, crouched on the ground, staring at her from the darkness. Sam took another step back, then another, and then another, until she was almost back in the computer room. Suddenly, the creature jumped at her. It ran along the floor on all fours, like a predator getting ready to pounce. She screamed and jumped into the computer room, slamming the door behind her. She could hear the creature scratching at the door, trying to get in, when suddenly, everything was silent. When she heard the back door of the house open, she ran to the window in the computer room and stared out into the yard. At first, her eyes had to adjust to the darkness outside, but then she saw it. The creature was standing in the yard, staring back at her. Sam gasped when she realized that its face looked just like the mask she had bought. At that moment, the creature turned and disappeared into the darkness. A moment later, Sam's father was knocking on the door to see what was going on. Early the next morning, Sam walked out into the yard. She didn't have to go far until she saw the mask lying in the dew-covered grass. Sam put the mask back in the plastic bag, drove back to the costume store, and put it back on the shelf. The shape. Kayla had been laying on the couch, watching TV in the basement. When it started to get pretty late, she couldn't help but fall asleep. Her father went down into the basement, turned the TV off, and covered her up with a blanket. About an hour after her father had gone back upstairs, Kayla suddenly awoke. She lay there, blinking for a moment. The only light in the basement came from an old clock her parents had hanging on the wall. It had a red neon light going all the way around the clock, but the light was old and fairly dim. Kayla strained her eyes to see her wristwatch in the dim red light. It was midnight. She was about to get up and go to her room when she noticed something out of the corner of her eye. It was hard to see in the faint red glow of the clock, but to Kayla it looked like a black shape was standing in the corner of the room, by the TV, watching her. It was about the size of a man, but looked like it had a black hood over its head. Kayla could see the red glow of the clock reflecting off its eyes. Kayla closed her eyes tight, thinking it was just a trick of the mind because she was so tired. But when she opened them, the shape was still there. She didn't know what to do, so she buried her face in her pillow and tried to go back to sleep, but she was too scared. A minute later, she opened her eyes again. The shape was still there, but now it was standing right next to her. Kayla screamed. After hearing their daughter's piercing scream, Kayla's parents ran into the basement and turned on the lights. Kayla told them what she had seen, but when they searched all through the basement, they found no one. If you enjoyed listening to those but wanted to experience reading the stories for yourself, you should check out the link in the description because we have an Etsy page and David's book is on there. Now, in addition to all of his short stories and poems, this book also features some incredible artwork, so check it out.